On March 23, 2019, during a raging storm, a luxury cruise ship with over 1,000 passengers lost all power. Its engines failed, and a large wave broke windows, sending icy seawater rushing over the decks. The Viking Sky was adrift, aimlessly drifting toward the rocky Norwegian shore. The captain made a desperate mayday call as experts worried this might become one of the worst maritime disasters of recent times. This is the tale of shocking neglect and how the Viking Sky came within moments of catastrophe. On March 23, 2019, the Viking Sky was crossing the notorious Hustadvika Bay when its engines abruptly shut down. For hours, the ship had been fighting 6-meter waves, but now, at the storm's peak, it was dead in the water. The crew hurried to restart the engines while hurricane-force winds battered the vessel. But what many didn't know was that this disaster was years in the making. The Viking Sky was one of 6 ships run by Viking Ocean Cruises. These vessels offered luxury Arctic voyages with views of the aurora borealis. But Viking was not a maritime company. Its ships were constructed by the Italian firm Fincantieri, while their daily operations were outsourced to the Norwegian maritime services provider Wilhelmsen. Even before Viking Sky's 2017 launch, engineers working on a sister ship found they lacked correct maintenance instructions. The engine maker had not given full guidelines for oil levels and alarm settings. Yet, Viking's diesel engines powered both propulsion and all electrical systems on board, making any engine failure a huge problem. For years, Viking's fleet transported thousands of passengers without correct technical documentation. And despite having 930 passengers and 465 crew, the Viking Sky was officially still classified as a small ship.
Think of how many crew are on board. Then think of how many passengers. And then go and have a look and count the lifeboats. Remember the Titanic, chums? Wasn't enough lifeboats, was there? There's not enough lifeboats on the cruise ships today.
Unaware of these dangers, mostly retired passengers started on a 12-day cruise along Norway's coast, starting in Bergen. The journey included several northern ports before heading south through the notoriously risky Hustadvika Bay, an area famed for its shallow reefs and violent storms. By March 21st, bad weather was predicted. Rival cruise lines called off their sailings, but Viking Sky went on. One of the ship's 4 diesel generators was already out of service. If another failed at sea, Viking Sky would not meet safety rules. Yet the captain and crew decided to continue. Worse, the ship was missing one certified pilot for the most hazardous section of the journey. Shortly after departing Tromsø, an alarm sounded for low oil pressure on a generator, but the alert stopped, and no further steps were taken. By the next morning, the weather had worsened. The captain called off a planned stop in Bodø, instead going south. As the ship approached Hustadvika Bay, the waves grew to 7 meters. The crew did a heavy weather checklist, but vital steps, including filling the oil sump tanks, were skipped. Now the engines had been running low on oil for over 24 hours. Worse, the Viking Sky's sump tanks were 40% smaller than international rules required, a design flaw that pushed the engines to their breaking point. By noon, Viking Sky entered Hustadvika Bay. The stabilizers retracted to prevent damage, causing the ship to roll badly. Suddenly, 2 generators shut down from low oil pressure. The bridge crew was taken by surprise. The ship was now dead in the water, drifting fast toward the rocky coastline. Passengers started to panic as the ship listed badly. Lights flickered, dishes, glasses, and furniture flew around them. In the engine control room, over 1,000 alarms went off at once, overwhelming the engineers. Seeing the severity of the situation, the captain sent an urgent mayday call. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Viking Sky. Engines failed in storm conditions 100 meters from the shore. Request immediate help. Norwegian Coast Guard boats launched right away, but the waves were too strong to reach the ship. Helicopters were sent out. Meanwhile, Viking Sky's crew started transferring oil into the sump tanks. They knew low oil pressure was the main problem, but due to bad training, they had never practiced restoring power without backup generators. The right engine reset steps weren't followed. At this key moment, one of the pilots took over talks with rescuers while the captain readied the ship for evacuation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the general emergency signal. For all crew, please get into your emergency positions, and for all guests, please proceed to your muster stations at this time, either muster station A or B.
Not long after, Viking Sky drifted over a rock with only 4 meters of clearance below its hull. Experts later said the ship had been only minutes from grounding, a disaster that could have matched the Titanic in modern times. Roughly half an hour later, passengers were gathered at muster stations, getting ready for rescue. Then a huge wave crashed into the ship near the second muster point. It broke windows and tore a heavy metal door from its frame, sending freezing water flooding into the ship. Some passengers were hurt by glass shards and flying debris. One had a broken neck when the door hit them. If the ship wasn't stabilized soon, hundreds could have frozen to death in the cold sea.
I ended up sliding across the floor, and then when the ship rolled back, I came back. And I ended up under a table, and the table was pinning my leg down there, and I was up to my neck in water.
A passenger later recounted the scary scene. Realizing the urgency, the Coast Guard tried to attach tow lines, but with the ship listing almost 30 degrees, the attempt was called off. Helicopters remained the only choice. 6 aircraft arrived just moments after water entered the hull and began lifting passengers 2 at a time, starting with the hurt and most vulnerable. Meanwhile, engineers managed to get DG-1 and DG-2 back online, giving the ship enough power to move away from the rocks. Yet, it was still in grave danger. Throughout the night, helicopters kept evacuating passengers. Finally, tugboats got to the Viking Sky and helped guide the ship into deeper seas. By early morning on March 24th, with calmer seas and tugboat help, the Viking Sky began limping toward the port of Molde. Over 460 passengers had been airlifted. 1 damaged anchor had to be removed. Hours later, the ship finally got to port. The remaining passengers and crew disembarked, shaken but okay. To his credit, Viking Ocean Cruises chairman met with passengers and offered full refunds.
It could have been a very bad situation, and I think we are very grateful for the captain.
Investigators found multiple failures, bad maintenance, insufficient oil levels, undertrained crew, and an alarm system that overwhelmed engineers at the worst time. 14 recommendations were made, including redesigned sump tanks and new training rules. Viking Ocean Cruises and Wilhelmsen were also criticized for sailing from Tromsø with an engine out and without the needed pilot staffing. In total, 18 passengers were hurt, 1 seriously. Yet, despite all that, no lives were lost. The Viking Sky disaster is one of the closest calls in modern cruise history, and a sobering reminder of how quickly luxury at sea can become terror. Daredevil pilots, souped-up planes. For aviation fans, it's the experience of a lifetime as loud engines rip through the desert sky. But when one plane, the Galloping Ghost, suddenly breaks from formation, excitement becomes panic.
Oh my God!
And in only 9 seconds, it becomes the deadliest airshow disaster in recent U.S. history. Was it the aircraft? Were there warning signs? Or was the tragedy unavoidable? The answers would change air racing forever. Tucked deep in the Nevada desert, the Reno air races are a nod to the golden age of flight. On an 8-mile course, pilots fly wingtip to wingtip at amazing speeds just feet off the ground. It's a sport where risk is built in. But Reno's unlimited class goes even further, allowing heavily modified experimental planes to race with almost no rules. At the center of this class are World War II fighters rebuilt for pure power and speed. Their iconic engines and the legends who pilot them are the highlight of the event. One of those legends was Jimmy Leeward, a Hollywood stunt pilot, humanitarian aviator, and racing pro. Jimmy had piloted hundreds of planes, but one aircraft had a special place in his heart and would become key to this story: the Galloping Ghost. The Galloping Ghost was a record-holding racer, but by 2007, Jimmy had bigger dreams. He wanted to break the unlimited class speed record, which meant pushing the plane way beyond its original limits. Over the next 4 years, he made big modifications: shortened wings, a streamlined body, and a changed center of gravity. And he fixed one of the plane's trim tabs, vital stabilizers, at a set angle. These changes made the Ghost faster, but a lot less stable. At high speeds, it became dangerously sensitive to control inputs. But there was a deeper problem. Jimmy was not an engineer. His calculations were intuitive, not based on simulations or structural checks. Unknown to him, the plane was now close to catastrophic failure. To make things worse, nobody inspected the plane. Despite the radical changes, the FAA and race organizers didn't review them. Miscommunications, record-keeping mistakes, and regulatory holes allowed Jimmy to keep racing. Worse still, some of the modifications, including the new cooling system, further destabilized the plane. Jimmy also failed to log necessary flight test hours, and most of the tests he did were at low speeds. On paper, things looked fine. In reality, the plane was on the brink. When Reno's 2011 championship started, Jimmy was on his third try to race the Galloping Ghost. He quickly posted one of the fastest qualifying speeds, over 500 miles per hour, making him a favorite for the win. But worrying signs started to appear. At high speeds, the plane's handling got worse. Jimmy noticed too much play in the trim tabs, but only one was checked, and a few loose screws were tightened. No deeper check was done. September 16th. Thousands of spectators filled the grandstands. Jimmy entered the gold heat, flying one of the fastest planes in the race. Midway through the race, he was timed at 512 miles per hour. But the extreme stress was bending the airframe. Photos showed visible distortions. A section of skin even came off the windscreen. Neither Jimmy nor his team knew how close the plane was to breaking apart. As Jimmy lined up to overtake a competitor, voodoo, turbulence from the other plane set off disaster. The left trim tab, already weak, vibrated violently and then snapped off. In a moment, the Ghost pitched into a 17-gram climb, enough to make Jimmy unconscious. Moments later, the plane flipped over, looping wildly. Seconds later, it dove toward the crowd. The Galloping Ghost hit a VIP box at over 500 miles per hour, disintegrating on impact. Jimmy died instantly. Shrapnel and debris tore into the stands, leaving over 60 hurt and 11 dead. The scene was awful, but one thing prevented even greater loss. The plane's steep angle took much of the crash energy, preventing a wider explosion. By strange coincidence, NTSB investigators were at the race that day, promoting aviation safety. They saw the crash firsthand and immediately started investigating. The wreckage was mostly unrecognizable, but fan pictures revealed the missing trim tab and structural problems. Shockingly, investigators found that key lock nuts holding the trim tab had not been changed in 26 years. They still had yellow paint from the plane's 1985 paint job. It was a shocking sign of systemic neglect. Ultimately, investigators found the disaster came from poor maintenance, unqualified changes, lack of oversight, and missing inspections. If Jimmy had talked to an engineer or replaced key parts, the disaster likely would have been prevented. In total, 11 lives were lost and 69 were hurt. Debate started over the future of air racing. Some called for an end to the sport, but even hurt fans came back to watch races in the years after. In 2025, the championship moved to a new home in Roswell, New Mexico, under tougher safety rules. New rules now require greater crowd distance, mandatory pre-race checks, and proof of airworthiness for all race planes. The U.S. has one of the world's strongest aviation safety records, and since Reno, no fans have died at an air race. 20 skydivers happily boarded a World War II bomber for what was meant to be a fun high-altitude jump. None of them knew they were about to be part of the deadliest disaster in the history of recreational skydiving. As the plane went up, the group got ready for the jump of a lifetime. But the weather got worse, and soon a thick layer of clouds covered the sky. Despite the golden rule of skydiving, never jump if you can't see the ground, the thrill-seekers jumped into the abyss below. 16 of them would fall to their deaths in the cold waters of Lake Erie. It was August 28, 1967. About 30 skydiving fans had gathered at Ortner Airport in Ohio for a rare chance, a free jump from a modified B-25 Mitchell bomber at an altitude of 20,000 feet. The sport was still quite new, and for many, this was a chance to add a high-altitude jump to their logs. But the medium-sized bomber had limited seating. The pilot chose to seat only the most skilled jumpers, a choice that unknowingly saved the lives of about 10 who were denied. Initially, the event was delayed due to cloud cover, but by late afternoon, the B-25 took off with 20 sport parachutists on board. The plan was for 18 of them to jump from 20,000 feet over Ortner Airfield, while the last two would jump from 30,000 feet on the plane's return flight. But heavy clouds forced the pilot to depend on Cleveland Air Traffic Control for navigation. Shortly after takeoff, a single-engine Cessna 180 also left from the same airport. Its pilot, originally planning to watch the event from the ground, had instead chosen to fly up with another fan to photograph the jump from about 12,000 feet. The B-25 took off around 3 p.m., starting a slow, hour-long climb to 20,000 feet. At that altitude, temperatures were from -20 to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the bomber was not insulated, many skydivers wore extra clothes over their jumpsuits, a choice that would later prove tragic. As the B-25 neared its drop zone, the pilot asked for a navigational fix from Cleveland Radio. In the 1960s, GPS was not available. Pilots relied on radio beacons for help. According to court papers, both the B-25 and the Cessna checked in with air traffic control within minutes of each other, reporting locations near the Cleveland radio beacon. The B-25's pilot was informed he was 6 miles from the designated jump zone. But in a vital mistake, the air traffic controller had wrongly identified the Cessna as the B-25 on radar. In reality, the bomber was flying over Lake Erie, 12 to 13 miles from its planned target, when the pilot thought they were just 3 miles away and gave the signal for the jump. The first 18 skydivers started leaping out of the plane within 30 seconds, planning to perform freefall tricks together. From inside the dark bomb bay, they hadn't seen the complete cloud cover beneath them. Their plan was to free fall to about 2,500 feet before opening their parachutes over Ortner Airfield, but they had no clue they were miles from shore. After they came out of the cloud layer around 4,000 feet, the awful truth became clear. They were roughly 4 miles over Lake Erie with no land in view. With only 3.5 minutes before impact, they started frantically getting ready for a water landing, taking off boots, heavy clothes, and anything that wouldn't float. On the shore, an off-duty Coast Guardsman saw the colored parachutes coming down into the water and immediately started rescue efforts. But the conditions were bad, with 4-foot waves hitting the skydivers as they hit the surface. Above, the B-25 kept climbing, unaware of the disaster unfolding beneath. The pilot's request to go up to 30,000 feet for the final 2 jumpers had initially been denied, but after plotting a new course, the plane eventually did the second jump over the correct drop zone, 20 minutes after the first group had gone into the lake. Meanwhile, 2 skydivers, Bernard Johnson and Robert Coy, fought to stay afloat, struggling against the weight of their remaining gear. Just when hope was almost lost, a private fishing boat saw them and pulled them aboard. They were the only survivors. According to one of the men, he had seen another nearby boat with someone clearly watching him, but the boat passed by without helping. To this day, the identity of that boat is still unknown, and the survivors think that with one radio call, more lives could have been saved. In the next days, Lake Erie slowly showed the scale of the tragedy. 16 bodies were found in its depths. A month later, the National Transportation Safety Board found both the B-25 pilot and the FAA controller were at fault. The skydivers were also found partly responsible, given their skill. The pilot's license was indefinitely suspended. In 1972, the FAA was found responsible for the deaths of 16 skydivers in a wrongful death case. After the tragedy, the Parachute Club of America changed its rules, banning jumps within 50 miles of any big body of water unless survival gear is used. To this day, the Lake Erie disaster is still the deadliest accident in skydiving history. It's sad to see how disaster can hit when you least expect it. As you'll see in the next video, sometimes it only takes minutes. That's all it took for a music festival to fall into horror. 10 people would lose their lives. Hundreds more would be hurt.
We're going to have to stop the show because there's people trample
And thousands would walk away traumatized, haunted by what they saw. What was meant to be a celebration of music became one of the deadliest concert disasters in history. This is what happened. For many fans, Astroworld was not just a concert. It was the event of the year. Named after Travis Scott's 2018 album, the festival had become an annual pilgrimage of high energy and disorder. For 22-year-old Bharti Shahani, it was a night she had been looking forward to. She spent weeks planning her outfit: black flare pants, a matching crop top, rhinestone eye stickers, ready for the perfect festival attire. She couldn't wait to see Lil Baby and Travis Scott, a performer known for wild, high-intensity shows. Scott's concerts thrived on mosh pits and rage culture, often pushing things too far. Warnings had been given before, but in 2021, organizers promised things would be different. This would be the biggest Astroworld ever. 50,000 tickets sold out in under an hour. They said security was ready, with over 1,000 officers and guards on duty. But the truth was, the festival was already in trouble. Warnings were disregarded, and by the time the first beat dropped, it was too late. It was still dark when the first fans showed up at NRG Park, hours before the gates were opened. As morning passed, the crowd grew. Excitement filled the air, but tension was growing. 7 a.m. Police and fire had set up a command center over a mile from the stage. A closer post was planned but never started. A critical error. 8:15 a.m. Problems were already beginning. A police lieutenant asked for riot gear, seeing the restless crowd. 9:45 a.m. The mood changed. Fans tore down fences and rushed inside. No ticket checks, no head counts. It was an early warning, disregarded. Soon after, fire officials showed up for a safety check. Private security stopped them, giving only a map instead of entry. When they asked for radios, they were given a cell phone number. Useless once networks got overloaded. By mid-afternoon, the situation was getting worse. Security stopped crowd control. No wristband checks, no bag searches, no direction. The festival grounds became a free-for-all. 3:15 p.m. Police reported dangerous crowd situations, but the event went on. An hour later, more fans broke a gate. 4:30 p.m. Injuries started at the secondary stage where Don Toliver played. Fans climbed barriers trying to get away from the surge. It could have been a turning point, but no steps were taken. 5 p.m. The police chief met with Scott's crew, warning them about the crowd, but nothing was changed. 6:55 p.m. With tension going up, security made a last-minute change. 15 guards were put between the front barricade and the stage, but none had radios. No way to call for help, no communication. Once the crowd pushed, they were by themselves. Just feet away, Bharti and her sister Namrata moved closer to the stage, unaware of what was ahead. All Bharti wanted was to be near the music, but the safest place was anywhere else. By 8:39 p.m., security was already rescuing fans being crushed against the barriers. Some were lifted over barriers trying to breathe. Others waved frantically at event staff, begging for help. But the music didn't stop. Instead, a countdown clock showed on stage. Travis Scott was set to begin at 8:45 p.m., but he was running 15 minutes late. In the crowd, pressure was increasing. Tens of thousands rushed forward, bodies pressed tighter and tighter. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to breathe. And within minutes, the crush would start. Just before 9 p.m., the most dangerous threat showed up. The crowd had nowhere left to go. Astroworld's main stage area had been turned into a death trap. Fans were packed into 4 huge pens, each boxed in on 3 sides by metal fences. No clear exits, no way out. A small ripple in the crowd soon became an unstoppable surge toward the stage. People at the back, thousands deep, pushed forward. Those at the front were squashed against the metal fences. Some fans climbed barriers trying to escape. Security pulled them away one after another, but not everyone got out. Tens of thousands, packed tighter than ever, braced themselves. Some had already lost their balance. Others could barely breathe. Still, the countdown went on. 10 seconds. Fans at the front pounded the barricades, begging for relief, but there was nowhere to go. 0. The stage went dark, then lit up red. Travis Scott's voice boomed through the speakers. Let's go! The first song, Escape Plan. A hauntingly ironic title because for thousands stuck in that crowd, there was no escape. Bharti barely had time to react before the force of the crowd hit. It was like a tidal wave, unstoppable and cruel. She held on to her sister's hand as long as she could, but the pressure was too much. At the back, fans were shoving without knowing. In the middle, pressure built to dangerous levels. At the front, people were squashed together, their ribs compressed so tightly they couldn't breathe. People were lifted off their feet, no longer in charge of their movements. The pressure from all sides held them in place. Those who fell didn't hit the ground. They were stuck between bodies, unable to move. The last words Bharti would ever say to her sister were, "Are you okay?" But Namrata was not okay. Neither of them was. The violent sway of the crowd pulled the sisters apart. Bharti was consumed by the crowd, and then darkness. But Bharti's nightmare didn't stop there. Even after she was pulled from the crush, chaos continued. In a viral video, Bharti, lifeless and unconscious, fell from a stretcher as emergency responders struggled to carry her. 6 minutes in, the crowd surged and people started to fall. There was no space, no air, no way out. Compression asphyxiation set in as bodies pressed together, chests unable to expand, holding the air inside. Oxygen levels dropped. Panic spread. Within minutes, consciousness disappeared, and without oxygen, hearts stopped beating. Some tried to push back against the wave, but the crowd was too packed. Still, the music played on. 9:16 p.m. Reports were coming in.
I'm going to be at the medical tent, and there's a lot of people trampled, and they're passed out at the front stage.
The crowd was packed so tightly that each person had barely more space than a piece of printer paper. 9:18 p.m. The first confirmed crush injury was reported.
Well, they have to stop the show because there's people trampled, and they're not breathing.
But despite these warnings, the show went on. 9:24 p.m. Travis Scott stopped briefly. For a fleeting moment, there was a glimmer of hope. But then the beat dropped, and Scott started his next song. Standing in the ocean. 9:30 p.m. A red and white ambulance was pushing its way through the sea of people, a clear sign that something was terribly wrong. But instead of clearing space, fans climbed onto the ambulance, trying to get a better view, and kept dancing. Travis Scott noticed it. He pointed it out to the crowd, But instead of stopping, he asked the crowd a scary question.
Who asked you to stop? Who asked you to stop?
Did he know what was truly happening below the stage? And if he did, why didn't he stop the show? That question would soon become the center of a criminal investigation. 9:35 p.m. One young woman had seen enough. She climbed a camera tower, waving her arms wildly, trying to get the attention of event staff.
That's okay with you real quick.
9:38 p.m. Houston Police and Fire officially declared a mass casualty situation. But even as CPR was being done across the crowd, the music kept playing. 9:39 p.m. Houston Fire had launched an ambulance task force, and the first victim was taken to the hospital. Just a few minutes later, Scott stopped for a third and final time. This time, he watched as security carried an unconscious fan through the crowd. For a moment, he stood still, watching. Then, he went back to performing. 9:55 p.m. The crowd tried one last time to get the show stopped, but it did not stop. Instead, at 10:08 p.m., Drake showed up on stage. Together, the two artists performed their last song. 10:15 p.m. Travis Scott jogged off stage waving to the crowd.
Everybody, I love y'all. Make it home safe. Get down!
The show had ended, but the tragedy was far from done. Namrata had passed out during the crush, but a stranger had pulled her to safety. Her sister, Bharti, was nowhere to be found. Desperate, she called Bharti's phone, and a stranger picked up. They told her Bharti had been trampled. By 6 a.m. the next morning, the second day of Astroworld was officially called off. But the question remained, how did it get so bad? How does a festival with security, medics, and police spiral into total chaos? The truth is, it had already started breaking down long before the music began. Security was falling apart. Thousands had slipped in without tickets. Many guards were poorly trained. Some had been hired by text message. Medics ran out of supplies, and when the crowd collapsed, no one had radios. No one could call for help. And perhaps worst of all, they had seen this coming. Experts had warned of crowd dangers. Gates had already been broken that morning. There was no surge plan, and no one hit stop when it started to go wrong. As harrowing videos spread across social media, public anger erupted. Lawsuits started pouring in. Travis Scott offered refunds and paid for funeral costs. But for grieving families, it was not enough. The next day, the FBI got involved, joining one of the largest concert disaster investigations in U.S. history. At the center of it all was a question no one could stop asking. Did Travis Scott know what was happening? Scott's legal team was fast to deny responsibility. Scott himself released an Instagram video insisting he was unaware of the chaos happening.
I just want to send out prayers to the ones that was lost last night. I could never imagine anything like this just happening.
But video from the night told a different story. Fans had yelled for help. Some had climbed onto camera towers, waving for the show to stop. Scott encouraged the crowd to rage, even as security pulled unconscious bodies over barricades. He saw people collapsing, yet performed for 32 more minutes after the mass casualty declaration. Why? According to police, Scott's contract with Apple Music, which was live streaming the concert, included a $4.5 million bonus if he finished his set. Did he know that at the moment? That is still unclear, but one fact is certain. Despite visible signs of chaos, Scott kept going. Did the money influence that decision? The police report doesn't say. So, could anyone be held responsible? In June 2023, nearly 2 years after the tragedy, a grand jury gave its answer. They chose not to indict Travis Scott or anyone else named in the criminal case after a 19-month investigation.
Whether there's enough evidence to say that a crime happened. just probable cause, not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but just did a crime happen? Is there probable cause to believe that a crime happened? In this instance, the grand jury of the 228th District Court of Harris County found that no crime did occur, that no single individual was criminally responsible.
But the fight for accountability was far from over. Hundreds of lawsuits were filed, representing more than 1,000 victims. Two of the biggest suits asked for $2.75 billion in damages. Travis Scott had built his brand on chaos, but for 10 people, that chaos became a death sentence. Rudy Pena, 23. Danish Baig, Madison Dubisky, 23rd. Brianna Rodriguez, 16th. John Hilgert, 14th. Jacob Jake Jurin, 20th. Axel Acosta, 21st. Franco Patino, Barty Shahani, and the youngest victim, 9-year-old Ezra Blount. By 2024, nearly 3 years later, all the families who lost loved ones had settled their wrongful death lawsuits in private. But for those who were there and for the families left behind, the wounds of Astroworld 2021 might never fully heal.
I just don't know. Alright, no. Gunshots. Oh my. What the f? What the f? Yo, f this.
What the fuck? Hello? What the fuck? What the fuck?
It's what sounded like someone screaming.
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this?
Imagine this. A chilly winter evening on December 30th, 2023. Popular YouTuber Chris Beard, famous for his spooky explorations of haunted places, goes on a camping trip with his friends Benjamin and Jasko. These three are familiar with the paranormal, but what they face this night is much more frightening than any ghost. As evening falls, they get to a dense forest, a perfect location for one of their eerie adventures. After preparing camp, the trio decides to separate and explore the dark woods. Chris, always the thrill seeker, takes out a spirit box, hoping to talk with the other side. But the forest stays strangely silent until this occurs.
Creepy, because we're just going farther and farther in the woods, and there's nothing around us right now. It sounds like someone's walking around in the snow. And again, I'm a realist here. Like, there could actually be an animal nearby. Animal could be in like a little hole. Whatever it is likes to hang out in here, clearly. Like, look at all that. Whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just... Agonizing. It is agonizing. It's agonizingly scary. Did you just tap on that tree? Something out here is trying to scare me. This forest is too much. Like, for real.
Faint footsteps start to echo around Chris, appearing out of nowhere. He surveys the area but sees nothing. Unsettled, Chris decides to go back to the campsite, where he would meet up with Benjamin and Jasko.
Because I don't know how much more of this craziness I can take.
Little do they realize, the night is about to take a scary turn.
I don't want to do my light is almost up.
Something's coming.
What?
Something's coming.
Where?
Like a vehicle or something. What if it's that same vehicle from earlier?
It might be.
Hold on.
Like, you actually think there's a vehicle coming right now?
Listen here.
Oh, I see lights, Dude, cut your light. Cut your lights right now. Look at, there's a light up there.
Wait, is that a car?
I literally see lights coming at us. Look at that. We're all lit up. I'm turning myself up. You guys see those lights up there? Yo, they're shining a light around.
Wait, what?
They're shining a light around, look.
Are they still at the campsite?
I don't know, I can't tell. Whoa. Are we seeing lights or are we just seeing the fire? Because I'm pretty sure I saw like a flashlight shining around, but I could be wrong.
No, I saw something too, but...
Yo, it's right there. Look it. Oh shit. Oh shit. I don't know. There's more than one.
What?
Just stay down. Just stay down.
Dude, they're driving really slow.
Oh, yo.
They stopped at our campsite.
What are they doing? They just took off. Bro, what the hell was that?
Why did they stop at the campsite?
How many people do you think there were? Any good? Let's all stick together. This is so weird.
They notice the rumble of a car engine nearing their campsite. The vehicle pulls up by their camp, and the three friends hold their breath, staying as silent as possible. The car waits, its motives unknown, before finally moving away. For now, they go unseen, but the anxiety settles deep into their bones.
If they came from that way...
What was that other light?
Someone came from that way and was walking around our campsite with flashlights.
Did
they pick them up?
They might have. Maybe there actually was somebody out here. I don't see anybody. I think we're okay. Dude.
Yeah, that's a little strange. Because here's the thing. If someone's out here doing like a little campsite thing, why would you show up with lights outside of your windows, like pointing them and stuff?
Doesn't make any sense. Like they were just like shining, like I don't know if they were gonna try to take some stuff. So they pointed their lights at us. It was really weird. I just have a weird feeling.
I'm just curious about what we saw initially, because there was noises and people from both
before
directions.
that vehicle came,
yeah,
right?
before they came.
I saw a light moving around, without a doubt. Like I'm almost nervous to go down there.
Just when they believe they're safe, they're facing a life-threatening situation.
So I just don't know. Alright, no.
Gunshots.
Oh my god, yo, dude, kill the fire, let's get out of here, dude. Seriously, let's get the out of here. Kill the fire, let's get out of here. We'll get this out. Dude, fuck this. Those are gunshots. Here, pipe this. I'm just backing anything up, dude. What the fuck? This is broken. You can't close your case. That ain't worth it. It's not worth it.
They were trying to scare us.
That was so close to us, too.
They were trying to
Were they
scare us.
shooting at us?
I
That's
know
why I
they
just don't
were shooting at us,
understand.
But they were definitely trying to scare us. I could say that with 100% certainty.
You're trying to cover stuff, so just be careful. We have to like pull over down here. I want to get somewhere safe right now. What the fuck?
I have to figure out how.
Gunshots sound out through the forest. Panic begins as the reality of the situation hits them. This is no longer a ghost adventure, but a life-threatening encounter. They snatch their bags and run, leaving their things behind, escaping the forest at a rapid speed. Chris, Benjamin, and Jasko fled the forest safely, but the secret of that night remains. Were the people in the vehicle targeting them, or was something even more malevolent at play? With no news since, the unanswered questions leave us all wondering what really hid in those woods. Imagine this, a solo trucker, simply another day on the job, driving through the isolated roads of the Sunchild First Nation Reservation. His mission? To collect equipment from an industrial site located deep within the wilderness. Everything looks ordinary until it's not. As the trucker drives the winding paths, he unknowingly films something on his camera, something hiding just beyond the trees. A dark, large, and hairy form partially concealed among the branches, its eyes fixed on the truck. But it does not move. The trucker, ignorant of the ominous presence he's just filmed, continues on his way, pulling over to stop his truck nearby. But then it occurs. Suddenly, the quiet of the wilderness is broken by loud, frightening bangs coming from deep inside the forest. The trucker stops, his heart beating as he realizes he is not alone. Panic begins. Without a second thought, he rushes back into his truck. He drives off, desperate to get away from whatever it is that might be out there. But the question is, what did he film on camera? Was it just a trick of the light or something much more scary? On January 21st, 2024, Chris Beard, a popular YouTuber famous for his spooky explorations of haunted places, began another thrilling adventure. This time, he is going to one of America's most haunted forests, the Pukwudgie Forest. Alone and undaunted, Chris sets out to camp by an abandoned farmhouse, a property held by another well-known YouTuber, CJ Faison. As evening falls, Chris gets to the dense, menacing forest, an ideal setting for his latest eerie expedition. He prepares camp and starts his investigation of the abandoned farmhouse. He attempts to communicate with any lingering ghosts, and then this occurs.
Did you tell me that? Did you make a noise? Do you enjoy me being here with you? So, I don't know, just very uncomfortable, you know? Ooh! Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the actual fuck up. Get the fuck out of here. We just moved that door. What the actual fuck just happened? Yo, there's nothing going on here. There's no tomfoolery. I don't understand how that just happened. My mind playing tricks on me? What the fuck was that? That was so weird.
A door flies shut, despite Chris leaving it open. With no wind apparent, the sudden sound sends shivers down his spine.
I cannot explain that. What the fuck? Who was upstairs? Hello? I pray that was outside. I literally pray that was outside. Bro, what the hell is going on in the house right now? I'm gonna be all alone in my tent, so feel free to come bother me tonight. Keep me company. Yeah, I don't know if I can do this all night, guys. This is wild.
Unease overtakes him, but he musters his courage and moves on. Chris decides to investigate further, going upstairs to where he believed the noise came from. But what occurs next is something he was not ready for.
What the f***? What the f***? Yo, f*** this. This place.
Please don't stop.
Yeah, I'm not stopping. I'm out of here. F*** this. This place, dude. I f*** this place.
A scream cuts the silence, sending Chris fleeing outside in a desperate run for safety. He goes to his tent, but the night's frights are far from finished.
Sorry, guys. back on for a sec. Your boy is not doing this again. Zip, damn it.
Settling inside his tent, Chris attempts to sleep, but strange noises keep him from sleeping.
Do a podcast, but if anything happens, I'll record in a little bit when I go to bed. And yeah. Is that just my imagination? Or did something just happen over there? Did you guys hear that? Is there like someone like almost like poked the front of the tent? Alright, my heart rate just went from a nice 69 beats per minute to 148. What the f, guys? This is gonna be a long night. I thought everything was fine, but no. Every time I think it's good.
Finally, tiredness takes over, but not for very long.
Hello? What the fuck was that? Hello? My light died. I just heard the weirdest noise. I don't know. Something woke me up.
He's startled awake by noises right outside his tent. The feeling of being observed is unmistakable. Imagine being present, alone in the dark, with only the delicate fabric of your tent separating you from whatever hides outside. What would you do?
Is that a car alarm? Oh. What was that? Oh.
Confused and unsettled, Chris goes outside to face the source of the noise. But little did he know, this was a choice he might regret.
What the fuck was that? It sounded like someone's car, but there's no one here. Like, I don't see any camera notifications. I don't know, guys. I don't actually know. It is almost 6 o'clock. Slept a decent amount tonight, so I think I'm just gonna go home. Just gonna go home, maybe sleep for a couple more hours, and just, I don't know, guys. Like, I mean, I stayed a decent amount. I didn't stay the whole night, but call it a foul, call whatever you want. I'm gonna pack my shit. I'm gonna go. So, what was that? All right. I'm getting in the car. I'm done. Fucking getting in the car.
The terror climaxes as Chris finally decides he's had enough. He runs to his truck, escaping the haunted woods as fast as he is able. Though he fled safely, we may never know what truly tormented him that night. How would you respond if you found something big and unknown was watching you? It's a pleasant evening on July 29th, 2022, far in the wilderness of Canada. Two friends, Jason and Michigan, are on a camping trip. The night has been quiet and uneventful, filled with the comfort of shared stories around the fire. But just as the coals begin to fade, something odd happens. Suddenly, a loud, threatening snarl pierces the quiet.
Why don't we hear noise if it's moving? Because it's good.
Yeah, but that good?
Yep. Like that close. Yep.
No.
Yep.
Without delay, Jason snatches his camera, intent on filming whatever is hiding out there. As they check the forest with their flashlight, something strange catches their eye. A single white point glowing in the darkness. They believe it could be an eye showing the light. But something isn't quite right. Why is there only one eye and not a pair? Jason keeps the camera steady, his breath quickening as the point seems to move slowly and carefully. But here's the issue. It makes no sound as it moves. No snapping of branches, no footsteps, just quiet. What could this possibly be? The unease builds as the point continues to move, almost as if it's trying to get away from the camera's gaze. This eerie clip was later uploaded by the YouTube channel The Lost Cryptid Conservatory, where it soon captured the attention of viewers. The video started intense debate, with many wondering what Jason and Michigan met that night. Bigfoot or something else completely? I think we will never know. For this story, we go to Belgium, where the YouTuber Kaz is heading to an abandoned campsite with two of his friends. But before they even arrive, something startling occurs. On December 29th, 2023, the YouTubers came to the forest where they would find their way to the abandoned campsite. When they got out of the car, they heard some dogs yelping.
Echt? Oh, man.
The noise came from far in the woods. When they got to the entrance of the forest, they saw a tree that acted as a closed passage. On the tree was inscribed, "Private." This is a place of prayer. Please respect the space. And behind that tree, they saw a sign that read, "Beware, Watchdog." Kaz said that he didn't see this the last time he was here. However, this did not stop them. They climbed over the tree stump and walked deeper into the forest until they heard some odd sounds. They explained the sound like a door that swung open.
Ja, hoort je het? Die deur, die wint niet. Ik hoor zo... Nee, dat was een beest. Zeker? Ja. Oh, nee. Waar is dat? Dat was een deur. Dat is een deur, hè? Hallo? Ik de wind ook gaan, ja. Waarschijnlijk wel. Oh. Maak ik ook goed stap. Ik hoor van alles hier. Dit is zo fucking eng. Oh. Maat. Hallo? Mogen wij hier binnenkomen?
The YouTubers believed it would be smarter to walk a little further around the forest and then go into the forest through a walking path, so that they were positive that they were not on private land. When they walked a bit deeper into the forest, they saw a tree that was blocked off with red and white tape and also a sign stating, "No access. This is a private area with camera surveillance." Again, this did not stop them, and they went over the tree and continued their journey into the forest, not knowing what awaited them.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh. Dat is er niet mijn auto of zo, hè? Hier wordt letterlijk iemand gemarteld in dat bos. Dit is heel fucked. Daar is geen licht, kijk. Daar is geen licht. Dit is heel fucked. Dus... Kom gewoon verder. Stel je voor, dat is mijn auto. What the fuck is dit, kerel? Die zit er ook. Ja, wat komt er? Zit daar een lampje? Ja, die komt naar hier. Kom naar hier. Kom naar hier. Blijf gewoon hier. Lamp aan of niet? Hallo? 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 What the fuck? What the fuck? Hey!
You see a woman in a white dress with an axe in her hands, fast walking toward the YouTubers. Out of fear, the three boys lost one another in the dark forest, but this person is not done with them.
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Ja, wacht. Hallo? Hallo? Je moet nu naar hier komen. Fuck. Ja, we zitten hier in een bos in de Centerlo. We zijn hier in een bos. En dat is een verlaten bungalowpark. En ineens komt er een man met een mes of zoiets op ons af. We zijn met 3. En ik hoorde ook kloppen. Ik denk dat mijn auto kapot is geslagen. En we zijn vies aan het gaan lopen. Zijn Jurissen. Kom alsjeblieft heel snel.
When the police arrived at the location, Kaz came out of the dark forest, but not long after, the baffled woman emerged from the woods.
Ja, is goed. Ja. Ja. Dat is die. Dat is die.
Mevrouw, het is de laatste keer. Hier blijven.
Maar waar is het?
Je gaat hier blijven.
Ofwel moet ik met mijn vrouw mee, ofwel moet ik hier blijven.
Ja, dat is goed. Vanaf nu luisteren naar mij.
Nee, ik ga niet luisteren.
Hé! Beetje respect hebben voor de kleren, ja?
Dat is geen respect hebben voor mij. Kom er wel gaan zitten. Nee, dat gaan we niet doen.
Mevrouw?
Nee, dat gaan we niet doen. Dat gaan we niet doen. Nee!
Oké, gedaan. Nu is het gedaan, ja? Pak die lamp. Pak die lamp. Pak die lamp.
Deze collega moet ik laten zien.
The cops took 6 men to calm the woman down. The baffled woman was brought to the police station, and the 3 YouTubers went right home. A trauma for life is how they explain this experience, but they are fortunate that they were able to get out unharmed. It's August 2nd, 2024, an ideal day to camp. Gaz, the adventurer behind the YouTube channel Grizzly Gaz, famous for his wild camping trips and explorations, embarks on what seems like a normal journey. He parks at a private spot, explores old ruins, and shares a calm evening with his loyal dog, Fendi. As evening falls, everything is quiet and serene. After a relaxing stroll, Gaz goes to bed, ready for a restful night. But just as the night gets deeper, Gaz is startled awake by an unsettling sound coming from the depths of the woods.
I ended up lying down for a bit, but I ended up just drifting off to sleep. It's been peaceful though, but I've just woken up to what sounded like someone screaming. Can't figure out what that is. Must be some type of bird.
It's a strange, creepy sound, unlike anything he has heard before. Determined to face whatever is making this noise, Gaz goes out into the dark, his flashlight cutting through the pitch-black evening. But there is nothing to be seen. Gaz goes back to his van, trying to shake off the anxiety, and eventually falls back to sleep. What do you suppose the noise was? Let us know in the comments. Luckily, Gaz wasn't in any life-threatening situation. Follow the Bell Explorers as they go into the eerie, screaming woods of Pluckley, Kent. Known for exploring haunted locations across the UK, they are on a quest to uncover the truth behind this infamous location. The Screaming Woods are famous, said to be haunted by troubled spirits. Locals claim to hear unsettling cries and screams, especially at night. The Bell Explorers, though doubtful, are here to find any signs of the paranormal.
If there are any spirits present, please make a noise or show us that you're here. We're not here to harm you. Please just rustle a branch or something. Make yourself known.
As they go deeper, only the noises of birds disturb the quiet, an odd thing in the dead of night.
Mate, what was that?
You definitely heard it, didn't you?
Yes, come from over there somewhere.
Suddenly, an unexplained noise nearby breaks the silence. The team attempts to find its source, adding to the unease. Despite their initial doubt, the explorers can't deny the unsettling feeling. Their genuine responses and unedited footage add to the realness.
Shit. Spirit, do it again. Definitely see it that time.
Fuck that, shall we go?
Yeah, I think I'm not too keen on that.
Yeah, fuck that. We're getting out of here, guys. Fuck that. I ain't having that. We'll get back to the car. Ain't a piece of me, that shit.
Another loud, odd noise sends shivers down their spines. Realizing it is time to leave, they rush back to their car, feeling observed all the while. Did they meet spirits? Or was it their minds? The woods hold their secrets, so be cautious what you wish for. You just might receive it.